Hardware store workers. What is the most I just committed murder purchase you've ever seen?
Story 1. Not a murder, but a woman once came into Fleet Farm in the middle of the workday in a very nice business suit. I rung up for her a castrator pliers and one single bag of bands. I asked if she wanted to put it on a farm sheet, and she said it wasn't for farm use, completed her purchase in cash, and walked out. It was not spring, when sheep castrating usually happens, and she was what I would call highly agitated. I watched the newspaper for a while after that. Story 2. When I was 16, some friends and I were buying PVC pipe. A worker, who was a 20-something stoner, asked if we needed help finding anything, and we gave him our list. He chuckled and said, "You're building a potato gun." We claimed we weren't, and he just shook his head and told us we were doing it wrong. He showed us all the parts and told us how to put together our not potato gun. I hope that dude is thriving, because the potato gun he helped us with literally shot a potato over 2 football field lengths. It was basically a 5-foot-long mortar. Story 3. I bought a shovel, concrete, contractor bags, tarp, bleach, goggles, Tyvek suit, gloves. Why I really bought all that. Completing turnover repairs on a rental property. Had to dig around a porch slab and reinforce with additional concrete. The porch was surrounded by a flower bed, so all of the dirt had to be put on the tarp. Trash bags were used to pick up all of the trash left on the property by the previous renters. Bleach was diluted with water and used to kill mold spores in the shower surround. Goggles and Tyvek suit were used while operating a paint sprayer to paint the interior of the home. I have made similar purchases to this hundreds of times for home repairs. So far, no FBI agents have come looking for me. Story 4. About 20 years ago, I worked at a Sears that was in one of the last major shopping centers on the way to a very fashionable vacation destination. A well-dressed older guy in a baseball cap came in and filled up his cart with saw blades, handsaws, drill bits, and so many vices. It was all woodworking stuff, but in surprising quantities. Usually the big sales were to young people just starting out in a trade, or recent retirees starting a new hobby. The woodworkers this guy's age tended to have established shops, garages, and would come in for replacement pieces. But this was all brand new. I wanted that commission, so I worked a little extra to help him find stuff. He was pleasant and soft-spoken. When I rang him up and asked for his phone number for the rewards program, he gave me a number with an LA area code. Back then, it was more rare for people to have out-of-state numbers, especially among our usual customers. That alone, combined with the purchase, made him stand out. I entered the number and his name popped up on the screen, Wes Craven. Story 5, not hardware but close to it. Circa 1998. I was working at a gas station one night and a man comes in with a blue gas can. He prepays I think $3 of gas and leaves after pumping it into the can. It stuck out in my mind because blue cans are supposed to be for kerosene. 3. 4 days later, everyone was talking about the fire someone set that killed a woman. A fire investigator shows up at the station and asks if I remembered a certain name and/or vehicle. I don't. The investigator then tells me that they can tell which gas station gas came from, so it has to have been bought either at our station or 115 or so miles down the road. After chatting a bit, he mentioned that the arsonist had used a blue gas can. The light bulb came on over my head and I mentioned seeing one. The guy with the blue can ended up killing someone with the gas I sold him. Story 6. Fun story. My dad is a retired doctor and acquired a teaching skeleton which he drove around with. No, not to drive in the carpool lane. He was picking up some dirt at a Lowe's, and the guys saw the skeleton in the back of his car. They distracted him and called up the cops, thinking he murdered someone and was buying a bunch of soil to cover up the body. Luckily, he worked in the ER for a long time, and the cops in town knew who he was, and he likes that teaching skeleton. Story 7 had to buy an axe-cause fireplace. There was a football game on in town, and the train station was packed. I walked through on my way home from work with the axe, head wrapped up. But I had a rucksack with work tools, which consisted of gaffer tape, rope crowbar, collapsible spade work knives, new hacksaw, other random tools. There was police everywhere. I didn't realize till I was on my way home on the train, as I forgot what I was carrying. That would have been a really bad stop and search. Story 8. I have a house in an urban area next to a huge high-rise, and I was very frustrated that they had a dying tree abutting our property line, for which after months of emailing, I decided to take matters into my own hands. There was also a large rat problem from their dumpsters, so I went to Home Depot and got a product to solve each problem. On my way to checkout, I noticed a huge display of duct tape. so I reflexively grabbed one, thinking you can never have enough. So as I put my purchases on the checkout line, the employee asked me if she had to be concerned. I looked down, and I was checking out with just a roll of duct tape, an axe, and a bunch of rat poison. I was able to convince her we were all good. Story 9. I definitely got the suspicious looks when I bought a case of Smirnoff and a shovel once. We had just moved, and on my 21st birthday, my cat died. I wanted to bury him in our new yard, but we didn't have a shovel, so I went to Walmart. I decided, hey, it's my birthday. I'm sad and depressed. Why don't I buy some alcohol since I am legal now? So I grabbed a case of Smirnoff and went looking for a shovel. I noticed a store associate following me as I made my way to Garden Center, so I just asked, "Where are the shovels?" And he gave me a perplexed look and then a nervous laugh and said he thought I was going to make a run for it since I was going towards the outer garden section. Got my shovel, went to the register with my 2 items, and when they asked for my ID, they were like, "Oh, happy birthday," and kept glancing at the shovel and my red-rimmed eyes from crying. Story 10, Felicia Snoop Pearson. God damn. Hardware store employee. I see you got the DeWalt cordless. Your nail gun, DeWalt 410. Felicia Snoop Pearson. Yeah, the trouble is you leave it in a truck for a while. Need to step up and use the bitch. The battery don't hold up, you know? Hardware store employee. Yeah, cordless will do that. You might want to consider the powder-actuated tool, the Hilti DX 460MX or the Simpson PTP. These 2 are my Cadillacs. Everything else on this board is second best, sorry to say. Are you contracting or just doing some work around the house? Felicia Snoop Pearson. No, we work all over. Hardware store employee. Full-time? Felicia Snoop Pearson. No, we had about 5 jobs last month. Hardware store employee. At that rate, the cost of the powder-actuated guns justifies itself. Felicia Snoop Pearson. You say power? Hardware store employee powder. Felicia Snoop Pearson. Like gunpowder? Hardware store employee. Yeah, the DX 460 is fully automatic, with a .27 caliber charge. Wood, concrete, steel to steel. She'll throw a fastener into anything, and for my money, she handles recoil better than the Simpson or the P3500. Now you understand what I mean by recoil? Felicia Snoop Pearson. Yeah, the kickback. I'm with you. Hardware store employee? That's right. Felicia Snoop Pearson. .27 caliber, huh? Hardware store employee. Yeah, not large ballistically, but for driving nails it's enough. Any more than that, you'd add to the recoil. Felicia Snoop Pearson. Man, shit. I seen a tiny-ass .22 round nose drop a nigh hash a plenty of days, man. Motherfuckers get up in you like a pinball, rip your ass up. Big joints, though. Big joints, man. Just break your bones. You say, fuck it. I'm gonna go with this right here, man. How much do I owe you? Hardware store employee, $669 plus tax. Snoop counts out a stack of cash. Hardware store employee? No, you just pay at the register. Felicia Snoop Pearson. Nah, man, you go ahead and handle that for me, man. And keep the rest for your time. Hardware store employee, this is $800. Felicia Snoop Pearson. So what, man? You earned that buck like a motherfucker, man. Keep that shit. Story 11. It's not murder, but one time 2 guys came in asking me where they could find an aluminum pole. The only poles we sold were for fences, so I asked if it was for an outdoor fence. They looked like contractors, so I figured they knew what they were looking for. They were like, well, we're building a dance studio. And I was like, is this to hold up the 2nd floor in this studio? Finally, I was like, look, we have poles over there, good luck. Then they gave me their card and asked if I wanted to work there. They were building a stripper joint. Story 12. Not a hardware store, but a bicycle shop. Guy came in and asked for a few bicycle inner tubes. Said he was going to do something nice for the kids. His car was found in a forest the next morning with the inner tubes connected to the exhaust pipe. He'd kidnapped his ex-wife and 2 little kids and gassed them and himself in the car. Saddest thing was the little girl had written a letter to her classmate a week before in which she said she thought her dad was going to kill them. She was only 8. The father had been issued with a restraining order that morning for domestic violence, but the police did nothing to protect them. Story 13. Not necessarily I just committed murder, but I worked in the flooring department of a hardware store, and a guy came in and asked for red carpet. Not something that any store really carries on hand, so it has to be special ordered. Usually this dissuades most people, but the guy was like, no problem, and asked to order some for a 12x12 room. Dude chose the carpet that was closest to blood red that we had. I didn't think much of it, just figured it was for a kid's room or something. Well, my girlfriend worked in the paint area at the time, and after work, she told me about a guy who ordered blood red paint for a 12x12 room. Definitely the same guy. One of our friends who was with us said that they helped someone who asked for sound-deadening material, which we didn't carry, who had red paint in his cart. Only time in my life that I've had the thought, I really hope they're building a sex room. Story 14. I'm too late and not a hardware store worker, but this was a crazy case. A number of years ago in Michigan, a woman killed her son. She then drove to the hardware store to get a power saw with which to cut him up. Unfortunately for her, when she got home, it turned out the saw was defective, so she returned to the store and got a new one. When she got home, there was also an issue with that one. She returns to the store a final time, and the manager can be seen on the video apologizing profusely, getting the saw out of the box and testing it for her before sending her on her way. Her ability to go back multiple times and return the defective product was part of the evidence used to deny her insanity plea. Story 15. I am sure that the folks at Lowe's thought I murdered someone. Weeks before my eldest was born, we noticed some mold on the ceiling near the fireplace. My eldest came early, so we forgot about it. Fast forward a few weeks later, and we were having the baby in that room since it was easy to trade shifts of sleep. Well, we suddenly re-noticed the mold, and in our exhausted brains, we freaked out. I went to Lowe's 20 minutes before closing to buy bleach, a bucket, and an air purifier. I was tempted to tell the cashier, "Oh man, so glad you all are still open. I have no idea what would have happened if I let the body sit overnight." Story 16. I don't work in a hardware store, but I do shop at H-Mart, the Korean supermarket chain. I was in line one busy Sunday afternoon, and everybody's shopping for the coming week. I'm checking out, and all my food is on the belt, being scanned. Guy behind me, an average-looking Asian guy you wouldn't think anything weird about, put his stuff down on the belt, but without the little separator thing. So the cashier rang up a box of big black trash bags, and I told her, "Excuse me, but those aren't mine, they're his." The guy suddenly got all nervous and interjected, "Yes, these are all mine. I'm getting supplies for camping." So who needs like 100 lawn and leaf bags for camping? I have no idea. So I looked over at the rest of his haul, and it was nothing but bleach, rags, and trash bags. Where the fuck that guy was camping, I don't want to know. Story 17. Does anyone really notice? While I was away, I came home and found one of my labs had passed in the day. Sad, but he had a good life. Found him lying with his paw crossed on the hill. He just laid down and passed in the fenced area. I'm in heavy clay country. The mattock had a broken handle, and there was no way I could get a hole dug just with a shovel. Bruno was also a big boy. I thought I needed something to wrap him in and get him across the yard. So I go to the home center, and I have a tarp, a new pickaxe, and a mattock, and a bit of rope. There was no self-check at this time, so the clerk rang me up. Didn't say a word, didn't raise an eye. Story 18. Not from the US/gun country, but 8Yo showed up saying he shot his whole family and dog and needed new ammo for his toy cap gun. Shows up with his whole family and the dog, which is a guide dog for his mother. Apparently he played cops and robbers a lot with his relatives. We recounted the story for months because it would be a completely different meaning if he was 10 years old older. We just played along because when parents came to get material and tools for their next project, their kids would often get Nerf guns or Cap toy gun, and we made a lot of money on these, so I guess we were international weapon dealers too. Story 19. Worked outside lawn and garden. Was walking past inside lawn and garden and see dude with a saw. He's got cuts and scrapes on his arms, some blood on his shirt. He's giving off terrible vibes, just like walking very quickly, and I try to slip behind him and see what's going on. I follow him through the store to the back gate of outside, and he starts messing with it. I walk up and say, "Hey man, sorry, you can't go out that way." He says, "Oh, but I parked back there." "Sorry man, you gotta go around." "Okay." And he walks back up the front. He keeps his quick little pace and sets the saw down on a shelf without stopping and walks out the door. Part of what made it so suspicious was that no law-abiding citizens would ever park literally on the poorly lit backside of the store, where no park spaces were marked, or buggy corrals or even sidewalks were. Even employees didn't park back there. It was strictly for 18-wheelers and pallets of freight. I'm guessing dude had a body or something in it. I told the manager right after, but it was like, I can't detain this dude. I don't even know what kit of car he had back there besides dark sedan. Cameras out back were not really focused on that area, more on the doors to the building. It was really unsettling, but I didn't call 911 or anything. I was younger and it all happened very quickly. Hope nobody got away with murder.